Hello, and welcome back to Astrology with Erin on Awakening Airwaves. I'm your host and astrologer, Erin, and I'm so glad you're here with me for the February 2026 astrology forecast. Each month, we explore the movements of the planets, the larger stories they're telling, and how these cosmic shifts show up in our lived experience. Before we begin, I want to remind you that you can read my full lunar blog for every new and full moon, complete with lunar rituals, rising sign horoscopes, and my recommended crystal and herb allies, all on my website, astrologywitharin.com. You can also book a one-on-one astrology consultation with me there if you'd like support understanding how these and future transits are working specifically in your own chart. The link is in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. It truly helps my work reach more people. Today's episode will follow our usual flow. We'll start with a wide-angle look at February's astrology, then move into a detailed chronological walkthrough of the month's major planetary movements, and we'll close with horoscopes for all 12 rising signs. So get comfortable, grab your calendar, and let's step into the astrology of February. February 2026 is one of the most consequential months of the year, and in many ways, one of the most important months of the decade. This is a month where collective timelines shift, long-standing structures dissolve, and something genuinely new begins to take form, even if we can't fully see it yet. We begin the month with a Leo full moon, opposing a powerful Aquarius stellium, bringing questions of identity, purpose, and creative authority into sharp focus. At the same time, Pluto, Mars, the Sun, Venus, and Mercury, clustered in Aquarius, signal that we are no longer working on purely personal terrain. These are social, collective, and future-oriented energies, and they ask us to consider where we belong, what we stand for, and how we participate in the larger world. Mid-month brings one of the most consequential shifts of the year. Saturn returns to Aries on February 13th. We saw a preview of Saturn in Aries between June and August of 2025, and February invites us to pick that story back up, but this time with real commitment. Saturn's return to the first sign of the zodiac marks the beginning of a new structural cycle, one centered on personal responsibility, individuation, and the consequences of action. Just days later, a solar eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius reshapes the terrain entirely. This eclipse is ruled by Saturn at 0 Aries, tightly conjunct Neptune, linking the birth of a new vision with the dissolution of old assumptions. With Pluto and Mars co-present the eclipse and Uranus squaring it from Taurus, February delivers a clear message. The future is not theoretical anymore. It's arriving through decisive moments, collective turning points, and deeply personal awakenings. The latter half of the month softens, but doesn't lose potency. Venus enters her exaltation in Pisces and trines Jupiter in Cancer, offering compassion, beauty, and emotional restoration after weeks of intensity. And the rare Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 Aries on February 20th marks a once-in-a-generation moment of clarity after confusion, the end of an illusion, and the beginning of a new spiritual and structural reality. It's the collapse of false scaffolding and the sobering realization that something new must now be built, even if we don't yet have the blueprint. This is not a quiet month, but it is a meaningful one. February asks us to sit at the edge of the known world, to release certainty, and to choose courage over comfort. All right, now let's walk through the astrology of February 2026, one day at a time. I'll also be sharing the chart with you during this episode, So you can see how these transits and lunations are unfolding visually, which I hope adds another layer of clarity and depth to the forecast. We begin the month with a bold and illuminating full moon at 13 degrees of Leo on February 1st. This is a fixed fire full moon, expressive, dramatic, and deeply personal. The moon in Leo wants to be seen, heard, and recognized, not for ego's sake, but for authenticity. This full moon is ruled by the sun in Aquarius, his sign of detriment. This creates an immediate tension between personal expression and collective awareness, between the desire to shine as an individual and the pressure to orient toward the group, the future, or a larger social vision. Adding to this intensity is the fact that we have a stellium in Aquarius at the time of this full moon, including Pluto, Mars, the Sun, Venus, and Mercury. That's a lot of planetary weight on the Aquarius sign of the axis. So while the Leo full moon says, "This is who I am," the Aquarius stellium responds with, "How does that serve the collective?" This full moon can bring powerful realizations around visibility, leadership, and creative truth, especially where personal desires may feel at odds with social roles, expectations, or systems that feel bigger than any one individual. On February 3rd, Uranus stations direct in Taurus after several months of retrograde motion. When Uranus stations, his energy is loud. This is the planet of awakening, disruption, and liberation. And in Taurus, those themes center around resources, values, stability, and the body. Since Uranus entered Taurus in 2018, we've been collectively reworking our relationship with security itself. When Uranus stations direct, something that has been slowly brewing internally often pushes outward. You may notice a renewed desire to change how you earn, spend, sustain yourself, or define worth, not just materially, but emotionally and energetically. This station is especially significant because Uranus is in the final degrees of Taurus, preparing to leave this sign later in the year. There's a sense of urgency here. If something isn't aligned with your values, it may no longer be tolerable. On February 5th, Mercury at 27 degrees of Aquarius squares Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus. This is quick, electric, mentally activating energy. Mercury Uranus aspects tend to bring surprising news, sudden insights, sharp conversations, or disruptions to plans. Thoughts can move fast, sometimes too fast, and communication may feel abrupt or edgy. This square can be brilliant for innovation, problem solving, and thinking outside the box, but it can also feel destabilizing if you're attached to certainty. On February 6th, Mercury enters Pisces, the sign of his fall. We move from the sharp, future oriented mental energy of Aquarius into something far more intuitive, porous, and emotionally attuned. Mercury in Pisces doesn't process information through logic alone. He listens to feelings, dreams, symbols, and subtle cues. Shortly after entering Pisces, Mercury also becomes visible as an evening star, a moment known in traditional astrology as phasis, an omen that speaks. When a planet emerges from the sun's beams like this, it signals that its themes are becoming noticeable, audible, and meaningful in the world around us. In Pisces, Mercury's message arrives through intuition, emotion, and spiritual insight rather than clear facts or linear answers. This can be beautiful for creativity, spirituality, music, poetry, and compassionate conversation. But it can also blur boundaries, soften timelines, and make details harder to pin down. As Mercury moves through Pisces, it becomes increasingly important to slow down, clarify expectations, and check assumptions, especially when something feels true but hasn't yet been fully named. On February 8th, Venus at 27 degrees of Aquarius squares Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus. This is restless, liberating, and sometimes destabilizing relationship energy. Venus Uranus aspects often correlate with sudden changes in relationship status, values, or desires. This aspect brings breakthroughs, moments of clarity about what you want and what you can no longer compromise on. On February 10th, Venus enters Pisces, her sign of exaltation. This is a beautiful shift. Venus in Pisces is compassionate, romantic, artistic, forgiving, and spiritually attuned. Love becomes less transactional and more devotional. Beauty becomes subtle, emotional, and deeply felt. After the volatility of Venus's square to Uranus, this ingress offers a softening, an invitation to reconnect with tenderness, empathy, and imagination. February 13th marks a major turning point for the year. Saturn re enters Aries. We had a preview of Saturn in Aries from June through August of 2025. Think back to that period. What themes emerged around responsibility, independence, or conflict between restraint and impulse? Those threads now return, but this time Saturn is here to stay until 2028. Aries is the sign of initiation, assertion, and raw forward motion. Saturn, by contrast, is slow, deliberate, and demanding. In Aries, Saturn asks difficult questions. What are you willing to commit to? Where does courage require discipline rather than force? And where has impatience or impulsivity been mistaken for strength? Immediately upon re entering Aries, Saturn begins applying to a bodily conjunction with Neptune in the very first degree of the sign. This is the long anticipated Saturn Neptune conjunction of 2026, now fully activated. We are entering a period of old structures dissolving, not all at once, but unmistakably, and new ones must be built from inspired vision. On February 16th, Mercury in Pisces forms a flowing trine to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. This trine brings perspective. Conversations can feel healing, emotional understanding deepens. This is a beautiful day for meaningful dialogue, journaling, or reconnecting with a belief or story that reminds you why you're here. Insights that arrive now tend to be nourishing rather than destabilizing. As if February wasn't packed enough, the 17th marks the start of eclipse season. An annular solar eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius. This is a north node eclipse, even though Rahu is still traveling through Pisces. It points us forward toward unfamiliar terrain, collective evolution, and necessary disruption. This eclipse is ruled by Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries, closing in on an exact conjunction with Neptune, also at 0 Aries. This alone makes this eclipse extraordinary. We can expect an eclipse ruled by Saturn Neptune to dissolve old realities and force new ones into being. Illusions collapse, structures weaken, ideologies crack. What has been built on fantasy or avoidance cannot hold. This eclipse is co-present Pluto and Mars, also in Aquarius, adding intensity, urgency, and catalytic force. This is not a subtle eclipse. It is loud, activating, and unmistakable. To complicate matters further, the eclipse squares Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus. Sudden changes, breaks from the past, instability in systems we thought were solid. Collectively, this eclipse speaks to radical shifts in power, technology, governance, and community structures. Individually, this eclipse will be felt most strongly by anyone with personal placements in the late fixed signs Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, or in the early cardinal signs Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. Anyone born within 2 weeks of an eclipse may also feel this powerfully. If that's you, or if you're unsure how this eclipse lands in your chart, this is an excellent time to book a one-on-one consultation with me. Eclipse seasons are pivotal, and understanding how they activate your chart can bring clarity during periods of rapid change. As always, the link is in the show notes. This eclipse doesn't ask for certainty. It asks for courage. It asks for honesty. And it asks us to let go of futures that no longer belong to us, even if we once believed in them deeply. All right, now we move into the final stretch of February, and this is where the month's deeper meaning fully crystallizes. On February 18th, the sun leaves Aquarius and enters Pisces. Happy birthday to all our Pisces friends. This shift marks a noticeable change in tone. After weeks of Aquarian emphasis, logic, systems, collectives, and future-focused thinking, Pisces season invites us inward. The pace softens, sensitivity increases. Intuition, emotion, and spiritual awareness come to the foreground. February 20th brings one of the most consequential aspects of the entire year, and arguably the decade. Saturn conjoins Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. This is the exact spring equinox point, a sensitive world axis associated with beginnings, initiations, and the birth of new cycles. Saturn-Neptune conjunctions are rare. They occur roughly once every 36 years, and this is the only exact hit of this conjunction for this cycle. Saturn represents structure, form, responsibility, and reality. Neptune represents dissolution, transcendence, faith, and illusion. When these two meet, old structures dissolve, often because they can no longer hold truth. Illusions fall away. Dreams and assumptions are tested against reality. And in that clearing that follows, something new begins to take shape. This conjunction is not subtle. It can bring disillusionment, grief, or disappointment, especially where we've been holding on to fantasies, ideals, or systems that are no longer viable. But it also carries enormous creative and spiritual potential. At its best, Saturn-Neptune provides the vision to imagine a new reality and the discipline to bring it into form. What makes this moment even more potent is timing. This conjunction occurs just 3 days after the Aquarius solar eclipse, which it effectively ruled. That eclipse opened a door. Saturn-Neptune now defines what steps through it. Collectively, this is a paradigm shift. Structures dissolve, new frameworks emerge, belief systems change, authority is questioned, faith is redefined. Individually, this conjunction will be felt most strongly by anyone with personal planets or angles near 0 degrees of the cardinal signs. That's Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. This is a moment to pause, to observe, to resist rushing towards certainty. Something new is being born, but it needs space to take shape. After the intensity of the eclipse and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, February 22nd brings a much-needed breath of ease. Venus, exalted in Pisces, forms a trine to a retrograde Jupiter, exalted in Cancer. This is one of the most beneficial aspects astrology has to offer. Venus and Jupiter are the two benefics, and when they connect by trine, especially while both are strong by dignity, we are offered comfort, sweetness, and emotional restoration. This is a moment of grace. Love flows more easily, support shows up, relationships feel nourishing, and creativity feels inspired. There can be a sense of safety returning after turbulence, a reminder that pleasure, connection, and beauty still exist even amid transformation. This is an excellent day to rest, to receive, and to reconnect with people or practices that feel genuinely supportive. On February 26th, Mercury at 22 degrees of Pisces stations retrograde. Mercury is already in fall here, and this station emphasizes introspection over clarity. During this retrograde, logic bends, timelines blur, memory, emotion, and intuition take precedence over linear thinking. Communication may feel indirect, symbolic, or emotionally charged. This is not the time to rush decisions or expect immediate answers. On February 27th, Mars at 27 degrees of Aquarius squares Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus. This is volatile energy. Mars Uranus aspects can bring sudden shifts, breakthroughs, and disruptions. Tension builds quickly, pressure releases unpredictably. This is not inherently negative, but it is combustible. Awareness matters here. Acting consciously makes all the difference. The same day, Venus conjoins a retrograde Mercury at 22 degrees of Pisces. At this moment, Venus is emerging from under the beams of the sun, becoming visible as an evening star, just as Mercury continues his retrograde motion back under the sun's beams. Symbolically, this marks a kind of handoff. Our attention shifts away from a fallen Mercury, where facts can feel fuzzy and misunderstandings abound, and toward an exalted Venus, who speaks through compassion, beauty, and the language of love rather than logic. This softens the sharp edges of the day. Mercury and Venus together bring tenderness to communication and emotional nuance to expression. This is a beautiful energy for writing, music, art, and heartfelt conversations, especially those that don't require immediate resolution. After weeks of intensity, this conjunction offers emotional understanding rather than clear answers. It reminds us that meaning doesn't always arrive through certainty. Sometimes it arrives through connection. February closes not with finality, but with openness. The Aquarius eclipse cracked something open. Saturn and Neptune redefine the rules. And the final days of the month invite us to integrate rather than conclude. This is not a month that hands us neat endings. It's a month that asks us to sit with the unknown, trusting that clarity will come, even if not on our preferred timeline. And with that, we're ready to turn toward the horoscopes. Before we move into the horoscopes, a quick reminder. These horoscopes are written from the perspective of the rising sign because the rising sign sets the whole sign house framework that shows where these transits are unfolding in your life. That said, you're also very welcome to listen for your sun sign, your moon sign, or any placement you feel especially connected to. All right, let's begin. For Aries Rising, your theme for the month, redefining identity through purpose. February opens with a Leo full moon illuminating your fifth house, placing a spotlight on creativity, joy, romance, and the parts of you that want to be seen and expressed without apology. The Aquarius stellium activates your 11th house, intensifying themes around community, long-term goals, and the future you're building alongside others. Group dynamics and collective visions act as mirrors, revealing where you've outgrown certain roles or where your individuality needs more room to breathe. You may feel called to clarify your place within communities without sacrificing your authenticity. Mid month brings a powerful turning point as the Aquarius solar eclipse resets your relationship to belonging and future direction. A long term goal, group affiliation, or shared vision may end or radically evolve, making space for something more aligned. As Saturn conjoins Neptune in your sign, a new chapter of self definition begins, one that asks you to embody your ideals with both discipline and compassion. This is a moment to redefine who you are becoming, not through force or urgency, but through grounded vision and conscious leadership. Where are you being asked to step into an identity that aligns both your courage and your deeper sense of purpose? For Taurus Rising, your theme for February, redefining success from the inside out. February opens with a Leo full moon illuminating your fourth house, drawing attention to home, family, and the emotional foundations that support your life. This lunation may bring clarity around where you need greater security, rest, or emotional honesty, especially if recent ambitions have pulled too much energy away from your private world. With the Aquarius stellium activating your 10th house, public roles, career direction, and long term goals are under intense focus. You may feel the tension between outer expectations and inner needs, but this contrast helps reveal whether what you're building truly aligns with who you are becoming. Mid month brings a powerful turning point as the Aquarius solar eclipse resets your professional path and public identity. This eclipse can coincide with a significant shift in career, leadership, or visibility, one that feels fated or unavoidable, especially if an old definition of success no longer fits. As Saturn returns to Aries and conjoins Neptune in your 12th house, a quieter chapter begins behind the scenes, asking you to tend to spiritual health, rest, and long term preparation. February invites you to redefine success, not just by what you achieve, but by what sustains you. What kind of success feels emotionally grounding, not just impressive from the outside? For Gemini Rising, your theme for February, rewriting the story of meaning. February opens with a Leo full moon, illuminating your third house of communication, learning, and perception, bringing an emotional realization around how you think, speak, or share your ideas. A conversation, message, or decision may arrive that helps you name a truth you've been circling for some time. The Aquarius stellium activates your ninth house, stretching your worldview and challenging old beliefs about what is possible or meaningful. You're asked to reconcile immediate facts with a bigger picture and to notice where curiosity is pulling you beyond familiar mental territory. Mid month brings a decisive turning point as the Aquarius solar eclipse resets your relationship to purpose, truth, and long term direction. This eclipse may coincide with the end of an outdated philosophy, educational path, or guiding narrative, making space for a more authentic vision to take hold. As Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries, your 11th house opens to a new chapter around community, collaboration, and the future you're helping to shape. What belief about your future is ready to evolve? And what new truth are you willing to stand behind? For Cancer Rising, your theme for February: redefining security and shared power. February begins with a Leo full moon activating your second house, bringing matters of self worth, resources, and personal stability into focus. You may become acutely aware of what you give, what you receive, and where imbalance has quietly taken root. With the Aquarius stellium illuminating your eighth house, deeper themes around shared finances, emotional entanglements, trust, and power dynamics are impossible to ignore. You may feel pulled between the desire to stand on your own and the reality of interdependence with others, especially where obligations or long-standing ties are involved. As the month unfolds, the Aquarius solar eclipse initiates a powerful reset around intimacy, vulnerability, and long-term commitments. This can mark an ending or beginning tied to shared resources, emotional contracts, or the way you merge your life with another's. Saturn's return to Aries activates your 10th house, marking the start of a new chapter in your public life, career direction, or sense of calling. Responsibilities may increase, but so does clarity around the legacy you're meant to build. Saturn's conjunction to Neptune asks you to lead with both strength and sensitivity, aligning ambition with emotional truth rather than sacrificing one for the other. Where are you being asked to redefine security in a way that honors both your needs and your growth? For Leo Rising, your theme for February: reclaiming creative authority. February opens with a full moon in your sign, placing a spotlight directly on you, your identity, visibility, and emotional truth. The Aquarius stellium activates your 7th house, intensifying dynamics around commitment, boundaries, and power within partnerships. Relationships and collaborations act as mirrors, revealing where compromise has gone too far or where authentic self-expression has been muted. You may feel called to renegotiate agreements or step more fully into your leadership within shared spaces. Mid-month brings a powerful turning point as the Aquarius solar eclipse resets how you engage with others long-term. This eclipse may coincide with endings or new beginnings in relationships that feel faded or unavoidable, especially if you've been outgrowing old dynamics. As Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries, your 9th house opens to a new chapter of belief, purpose, and direction, asking you to ground your vision while staying open to spiritual truth. This is a moment to reclaim your creative authority, not by performing, but by standing firmly in what you know to be true. Where are you ready to lead from authenticity rather than approval? For Virgo Rising, your theme for February: rebuilding trust through conscious choice. February opens quietly but powerfully for you, with the Leo full moon illuminating your 12th house of rest, release, and the subconscious. This lunation may surface emotional exhaustion, old grief, or patterns that have been operating behind the scenes, asking for compassion rather than critique. At the same time, the Aquarius stellium activates your 6th house, bringing pressure to rethink daily routines, work dynamics, and health habits that no longer feel sustainable. You may become acutely aware of where you've been overextending yourself or carrying responsibilities that aren't truly yours. Mid-month brings a decisive turning point as the Aquarius solar eclipse resets how you manage energy, labor, and care in your everyday life. This is about restructuring systems and commitments so they genuinely support your well-being. As Saturn re-enters Aries and conjoins Neptune in your 8th house, a long term redefinition begins around trust, intimacy, and shared resources. Old illusions or unspoken dynamics may dissolve, making room for clearer boundaries and more honest forms of mutual support. Where are you ready to release over responsibility in order to build trust that truly sustains you? For Libra Rising, your theme for February: reclaiming creative authority. February opens with a Leo full moon illuminating your 11th house of community, friendships, and long term visions, bringing an emotional turning point around where you belong and who truly supports your growth. A group dynamic may reach a moment of clarity, or you may recognize which connections feel reciprocal and which no longer align. As the Aquarius stellium activates your fifth house, attention turns toward creativity, pleasure, romance, and authentic self expression. You're being asked to honor your individuality and joy without abandoning your place within the larger whole. The Aquarius solar eclipse marks a powerful reset in how you relate to joy, love, and creative risk. This is an invitation to step away from performance and into expression that feels genuine and self directed. As Saturn moves into Aries and begins a new cycle in your seventh house, relationships take on greater weight and responsibility, asking for clearer boundaries, mutual accountability, and honesty about long term commitments. With Saturn conjoining Neptune here, partnerships must be both inspired and grounded, rooted in shared vision, not fantasy. Where are you ready to claim joy and creative power without dimming yourself for the comfort of others? For Scorpio Rising, your theme for February: restructuring your inner foundation. February opens with a Leo full moon illuminating your 10th house of career, visibility, and public direction, bringing an emotional culmination around your role in the world and how you're being seen. A professional milestone or recognition may arrive, asking you to reflect on whether your outer ambitions are aligned with your deeper needs. The Aquarius stellium activates your fourth house, intensifying themes around home, family, and belonging, and the emotional foundations that quietly support your life. You may feel pulled inward, compelled to examine what security really means to you beyond titles, expectations, or external validation. Mid month brings a profound turning point as the solar eclipse in Aquarius resets matters related to home, ancestry, and long term emotional grounding. This eclipse can coincide with shifts in living situations, family roles, or inner stability that feel fated or unavoidable. As Saturn conjoins Neptune and Aries, your sixth house opens a new chapter around work, health, and daily rhythms, asking you to build structures that honor both discipline and sensitivity. This is a moment to reclaim stability, not through control, but through alignment with what truly sustains you. What inner foundation must be strengthened so your outer life can grow with integrity? For Sagittarius Rising, your theme for the month: aligning voice with vision. February opens with a Leo full moon illuminating your ninth house of belief, truth, and long range vision, bringing an emotional culmination around what you stand for and where you're headed. A teaching, conversation, or realization may crystallize, helping you see the bigger picture more clearly. The Aquarius stellium activates your third house of communication, learning, and daily exchanges, emphasizing the power of your words and ideas. You may feel called to speak more boldly, share your perspective, or rethink how you communicate your truth in everyday life. Mid month brings a pivotal reset as the Aquarius solar eclipse reshapes how you think, speak, and connect. This eclipse can mark the beginning of a new chapter in learning, writing, teaching, or how you advocate for yourself. As Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries, your fifth house opens a long term redefinition of creativity, joy, and self expression, asking you to ground inspiration in discipline while honoring what genuinely excites you. This is an invitation to let your voice reflect not just what you believe, but who you are becoming. How can you speak your truth in a way that honors both your vision and your lived experience? For Capricorn Rising, your theme for the month: redefining security from the inside out. February opens with a Leo full moon illuminating your eighth house, bringing emotional clarity around intimacy, shared resources, and the deeper bonds that shape your sense of security. Matters involving trust, financial entanglements, or power dynamics within close relationships may reach a turning point, revealing what supports you and what no longer does. The Aquarius stellium activates your second house, drawing attention to self worth, values, and the material foundations of your life. You're asked to reassess what stability truly means to you, beyond obligation or survival. Mid month brings a pivotal reset as the Aquarius solar eclipse reshapes your relationship with money, confidence, and personal priorities. This eclipse can coincide with shifts in income, resources, or a deeper recognition of your inherent value. As Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries, your fourth house opens a new chapter around home, family, and emotional foundations, inviting you to rebuild from a place of compassion, truth, and inner alignment. Security now comes from honoring your needs as fully as your responsibilities. What would it mean to build stability that truly supports your inner life, not just your outer obligations? For Aquarius Rising, your theme for February: claiming a new identity with intention. February places you firmly at the center of change. The Leo full moon illuminates your seventh house of relationships, bringing clarity around commitment, reciprocity, and how power is shared between you and others. Important relational dynamics may come to a turning point, revealing where you've been asked to compromise or where mutual recognition has been missing. With the Aquarius stellium activating your first house, this month emphasizes self definition, visibility, and the courage to be seen as you truly are. Mid month brings a major personal reset as the Aquarius solar eclipse opens a new chapter in your life story. This is a moment of profound renewal around identity, direction, and embodiment, inviting you to release outdated versions of yourself and step into a more authentic presence. As Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries, your third house begins a long term transformation of how you think, speak, and share your voice, asking you to ground vision into language and intention into action. This is not about reinvention for effect, but about aligning your outer expression with your inner truth. What truth about who you are is ready to be lived out loud now? And finally, for Pisces Rising, your theme for the month: clearing space for a new inner alignment. February opens with a Leo full moon illuminating your sixth house of daily work, health, and routines, bringing emotional clarity around how you expend your energy and where burnout may be quietly building. This lunation highlights the cost of overextending yourself, especially when responsibilities have been carried without sufficient support or rest. With the Aquarius stellium activating your 12th house, much of this month's work happens behind the scenes through release, reflection, and the need to step away from patterns that have been draining rather than sustaining you. You may feel called to withdraw slightly, not as avoidance, but as necessary integration. Mid month brings a profound internal reset as the Aquarius solar eclipse marks the closing of a long subconscious chapter. This is a moment of spiritual clearing, emotional detox, and deep reset that prepares you for the next phase of growth. As Saturn conjoins Neptune in Aries, your second house begins a long term restructuring around self worth, resources, and material security, asking you to ground your gifts in practical, sustainable ways. This month reminds you that tending to what is unseen, your inner world, your boundaries, your needs, is what ultimately creates stability and strength. What inner patterns are you ready to release so that you can build security from a place of alignment rather than depletion? Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me for your February 2026 astrology forecast. This is a pivotal month of endings, beginnings, and deep realignment, and I'm grateful to share this moment in the sky with you. I'd love to hear from you, so feel free to drop a comment and let me know how the current planetary movements are showing up in your life. If you're interested in weekly mini horoscopes, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Astrology with Erin. And if you'd like to stay in touch and hear more about my work, you can sign up for my mailing list on my website, astrologywitherin.com. I'm also excited to share that I'll be welcoming guests onto the show in 2026, and my first guest will be joining me for the March forecast episode. I'll see you there. Until then, take good care, and may you trust the divine timing unfolding in your life.